I do wall-mounted sculpture. I incorporate other facets of my life. I would never just call myself a sculptor. I'm a printmaker. That's my background. My degree is in printmaking and painting, but I love sculpture. I look at these pieces of sculpture as line drawings in 3-dimension. I use 3 gauges of metal, so just like a drawing, you would have a fine line, a medium line, maybe a very heavy line. I forge the metal and then weld it together, and that's my exoskeleton, and then I do things to it. All the different materials I use are kind of interesting. I love using really funky raw materials. And then I would take little bits of very, very fine Japanese paper, and one is called silk tissue, and it's in many of the pieces. And just kind of took off from there. Made a lot of those pieces, took a welding class, took an advanced welding class, and I love making work. These pieces, it just shows you can use anything together. It's like where your imagination will let you go, or where my imagination will let me go. And if I don't think about what's coming next and I just respond to what I've already done, I can go much farther. All my work is circles. I can't exactly say why I'm very drawn to circles. So I start with that. I try to put something grid-like in it. However, just have a balance. And by doing all these different processes, engaging in so many different ways in one piece, it helps keep me connected to the art. Some people, they don't know how to think of it because they're used to sculpture on a pedestal. I really do not like the pedestal. I will do anything so it doesn't have to be on one. Wall-mounted sculpture is kind of unusual to people. I always find the last piece in a body of work, and that's how I look at this. This is one body of work. It's usually the last piece is the surprise that pushes me in the new direction. I met Jeremy, and he was having a show here. He asked me to show with him, and I think it's a really interesting combination of the two of us, of our work.
I think it's a fantastic pairing. Obviously, they're very different. You look at her work, sculptural, 3D. The disposition is so much different, yet at the same time, she has a similar kind of approach in that she also uses smaller units to build up a bigger unit, just like these barns or even this sign right here, the small boards that make up the larger, the larger unit. Ultimately, it all comes down to wanting to create a moment of visual poignancy. I want my work, my paintings, my images to do something that language can't do. Hopefully they're rewarding to the viewer, interesting to look at. I usually tell people it's realism or naturalism with a twist. Like a world's much like ours, but just slightly parallel, like just slightly off. Really, I'm interested in the West, in the idea of the West, the American West, quite a bit. You can see in a lot of them with the structure, with the sort of the barn and the shack and the shed structure. I'm interested in these buildings that have no real aesthetic consideration when they're built. They're simply functional. And then when they fall into disrepair, and we've all seen them driving out I-90 or whatnot over to Eastern Washington, you see them kind of half dilapidated and kind of falling apart. And there's something beautiful and interesting to me. It's a way for me to kind of investigate and engage our interaction as humans with the West and with nature. So it's all a lot of different things that come together with just having grown up in the Northwest, kind of the mystique and legend and mystery that it has. I'm interested too in kind of the multi-hued color scheme, something that you see in like Christmas lights or bunting, those flags, those multicolored flags you see at car dealerships or at carnivals or the Puyallup Fair or something, where it's like this code, it's this message that there's something special going on here, something really exciting going on here, and you need to see it, but most of the time it's sort of underwhelming. It's just not really, like it's sincere what's going on, but it's not all that's cracked up to be. So I'm interested in that tension. So in color, that's one very deliberate thing I'm trying to do, is kind of play with that tension of you know, these multi-different colors being really fun and exciting, but at the same time being sort of lonely and maybe even melancholic ultimately somehow. And this is an interesting time to have this show because I feel like this kind of marks, in a way, the end of that.
The exhibit is free and runs from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Centennial Center Gallery is located at 400 West Gowe Street, next to Kent City Hall. Sponsored by For Culture, Kent Parks Foundation, and Kent Arts Commission.